Before we get into the video, make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. I mean, come on, what are you doing if you're not subbed to me by now? My content is fire, from stop motions, news videos, reviews, music occasionally. All my social media accounts are linked down below, and now, let's get straight to it. What's up, you guys? Thank you for clicking on this video. So, as you can tell by the title, I just want to get some things out of the way first before I go into this figure and why I have some problems with it. If you guys don't remember, some of you guys are new subscribers probably, or some of you guys have never even seen before and you're just stumbling upon me. I got this copy of Armada Optimus when Big Bad Toy Store first had that batch release back in early May. I was one of those people to get it back then, and I did a stop motion review on it like 2 weeks after that. So if you want to go see that, check it out. I think I'll have it linked in the description. And I mentioned in my review some problems with it, but I didn't want to go totally in on this figure to sound like a total negative Nancy and ruin the hype, and I don't know, like, I just didn't want to go too hard on this figure, and I won't go hard in this video talking about, you know, all the issues and just how bad this figure is, because I don't think it's bad. I just got some issues with this guy. And I honestly, I've been hearing some things about him being figure of the year, and, like, I just don't agree. I really want to, don't get me wrong, I was really hyped for this guy. I still love this figure. I still think it's a great figure. It's really well made. It's just some issues in terms of the plastic and some engineering problems and just how things turned out with this thing, that I just think should be talked about a bit more, because I really think the whole hype of getting a new commander class, mind you, Armada Optimus Prime, has really gotten to people to the point where we've forgotten about, you know, issues with this thing, which I totally understand. I was the same way, but now that I've had it for a few months and I have him in hand, and I just want to do a video talking about this, especially with people getting in new copies from the Amazon pre-orders and stuff, and people were waiting on that, and now they're finally getting it in. So I just figured I'd put this video out. So we're going to start in the vehicle mode. First thing that I want to talk about here, it's pretty minor. This will probably vary with copies, but this smokestack was always like a little loose. It would always just pop out right when I got it out of box. This one pegs in pretty tightly, like that's not coming off unless if you use some force, but this one, flop it around and it falls right off. But again, that'll just vary. I do have a second copy that I bought opened, second copy of Armada Optimus and Megatron coming in. It was in like a lot that I found, got it for $135 shipped, so yay, happy about that. But back to this. Sometimes I get sidetracked. So another thing with the smokestacks, they're a bit small. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just my personal thing with smokestacks or truck designs, but it just seems a bit too, I just wish it was a bit more taller, because, I don't know, it seems like in the animation model or even in the original toy, the smokestacks were a bit longer to me, but I don't know, that might just be me with my personal preference talking. And y'all know me with the freaking clear plastic on Transformers figures, and honestly, thousands of other collectors out there share the same exact thoughts on, you know, clear plastic and the use of it. You know, sometimes I bring up the use of Armada Optimus' clear plastic as a way of Hasbro doing it right, and while I still think that, it still wasn't done the greatest either. I mean, the design has some problems here. It raises up a little bit from the thing. I mean, this is minor to start off with, but the windshield is raised up more from the cab section itself, so it looks off just a tiny bit. You can kind of see the opening there. So, and there's screws through it, and there's a couple hinges inside of here that's clear plastic for the super mode transformation, which I might be able to show off. I don't know, it's kind of tricky on camera, but when you get it in hand, you'll see the hinges and the screws that are with clear plastic, which is kind of ridiculous to me, but again, they still did it better because there's not a huge ton of robot junk in there like it is with most clear plastic windshields that just look terrible. This is probably one of the better uses that Hasbro's done recently with clear plastic windshields. And I know this was this was accurate. This was accurate to the original toy design, and I think also accurate to the original cartoon model. But I mean, you know, with the whole modernizing older designs and this whole new unified scale and design with generations that we've been getting since Siege, you would think one of those redesigns would have been actually figuring out a way to hide the super mode hands and his regular core robot mode hands. I mean, yes, it's accurate to his design, but still, it's just weird looking. Yeah, sure, the super mode hands are hidden once you put the trailer on there, but still, what if you don't want to have the trailer on there? What if you don't like the hands for both modes just sticking out? Again, this isn't, you know, the biggest problem, but for some people, I've seen comments online talking about how they don't like this at all, and it makes them not want to buy the figure. You know, if you're not a Unicron Trilogy fan, if you didn't grow up with this era, you're gonna think this is ugly as hell and that Hasbro is cheapening out, when really it's just, you know, a part of the design. So I really wish they would have modernized this a little bit and figured out panels to flip over these. Now, for the most part, I really think the trailer came out good. Sure, maybe it could have been just a tad bit longer, I guess, but that's another little nitpick. But the major thing with this, I don't want to sound like I'm talking about, you know, Hasbro cheapening out with prices and stuff like that, even though that, you know, kind of does happen because that's just the state of the world. Prices are rising and such, but, you know, this is a Commander class, $100 figure. We used to get rolling rubber treads on Leader class figures that were like $45. I mean, you do the tread design with all this dope sculpted detail and it's pinned in, but then you just give us these stupid wheels that aren't even pinned in, they're on mushroom pegs, so he could roll. It just seems like a bit lazy to me, and I don't know, it's... Ugh. Now getting into something a little bit more serious in terms of the design and plastic quality of this thing, there has been reports I've seen online about stress marks on certain areas, which I'll cover more of in this video. So I'm not the only one experiencing this, and a little disclaimer out there, I don't manhandle my figures. I do toy photography, I do stop motions, it's a part of my job. So I don't like to manhandle my figures. I'm a pretty, you know, mature collector, so. But you got some stress marks here on these side panels of the trailer. I think it's on this side. Let me take a look. Yeah, it's going to be kind of hard to pick up on camera, but you see this white mark there? That's a pretty deep stress mark, and the plastic actually separated a little bit right there too. You could kind of see the line there for separation. And by the way, this is paint on my hands. I make dioramas. I commission dioramas for people, so my hands aren't dirty. It's just paint, mind you. But anyway, back to this. There's also some on this panel too. I mean, I don't know if it's like tolerance issues or the tabs are too tight, because they really are tight. Oh, it's on the other side. It's not on this panel, it's on this side. Let me open this up. Yeah, it's a really tight tab. There's no stress marks on this one, but on this one, again, it's going to be a little hard to see, but there's a little bit of white marks on the hinges there on both sides, and I think when you open it up, yeah, there's a little bit of markage on the inside, but yeah, just be careful of these tabs. They are a little tight. I don't know if it's like a tolerance issue or just the way it was designed, or if they're using cheap plastic for that part of the figure. I have no idea, but it is prone to stress marks. And this is a mileage may vary sort of thing in terms of QC, but this wheel, it's like really stiff. You can see that it like stops rolling at a certain point. The rest of the wheels, they move like butter because they're pinned in, and it's great. Thank you, Hasbro, for that. But on my copy, this wheel is all messed up. I don't know what's wrong with it on the inside. And also, this is a minor thing, but there was like a paint splotch right there, silver paint. So definitely something up with this wheel in terms of what happened in production. Now, let's talk about the base mode here. I think this was probably the best configuration that I could find for me personally that I really like to look at and mess around with. You guys might have a different one. If you do, let me know down in the comments below which kind of base mode configuration you like to do. But in terms of the base mode, it feels a bit lackluster. Like the original one, there were extra pieces. I think it was originally like the legs that would come to the front, and then the other side pieces would be like the sides of the base mode or something like that. So it feels like it's missing extra bits that the original base mode used to have in the show and on the toy. So I just feel like it's a little lackluster, and it's just like a tacked on sort of thing, like with most base modes these days. So yeah, I just don't really think this was well executed, even though, you know, it is really armed up and does look kind of cool once you find it in a semi-good-looking configuration. I mean, you got the guns here, guns there, this big, huge missile rack, this missile rack on there. I mean, it's really armed to the teeth, but I just still think it's a little lackluster to me. Now, in the core robot mode, again, I'll start off with minor issues and then slowly work up to some more, I guess you could say, serious ones. So, again, with the smokestacks, I forgot to mention this, but the paint chipping, it seems really easily. Like, it's kind of hard to pick up on camera because, you know, the lighting and the white background and stuff, but, like, when you plug on blast effects, the paint starts to wear off super easily, and just with regular play and handling it, the silver paint on the sides here likes to wear off a little bit, and you can see the gray plastic coming through. And with his hip skirts here, again, this will kind of be hard to pick up on camera. I'll probably be saying this a lot because, you know, it just is what it is, but there's stress marks starting to form a little bit on the hinges for all of these hip skirts. It's just the nature for how it transforms, specifically these two. They gotta tab together, they gotta split apart, and they gotta tab into the legs here on the side, so that means you gotta split it apart and tab them in, and for the super mode transformation, so that's just gonna happen, but it feels like it's happening quicker than it really should, and it just feels like the plastic is a bit off, or just the design in general is off to me. I don't know. And the next stress mark plastic issue I've heard reported on the most online is the lower leg panels or foot panels, whatever you want to call it. Again, this will be a little hard to pick up on camera, but you got a little bit of stress marks forming on the insides of these panels that you flip up. I'm going to be very careful, and you guys better be careful too with your copies, because it seems like on most people's copies this is happening. So you flip that up, and it is really tight, like it's screwed in there. I don't know, maybe the plastic that they used for this particular section of the figure can't handle a screw being tightened that much, which is kind of crazy to say, because screws used to be pretty much the norm with Transformers figures. Yeah, there's definitely stress marks starting to form just a little bit. It's not as terrible as I've seen with other people online. Like, some people have just snapped theirs off clean, which is absolutely insane. I haven't had that yet, thankfully. I've been pretty careful with mine. I've transformed mine at least probably like 10 times, so it's just light stress marks, so just be very careful with these leg panels. And another stress mark section that I've seen is on the top shoulders here, these hinges for the front of the cab in vehicle mode. Again, this will be hard to pick up on camera, but you see, or I'll kind of try and get you guys to see, but this isn't pinned in. Not that I really would want it to be pinned in, because I don't really see what would make it any better, because I still think it would be stress marked, but the hinge, the way you tab it in on this panel part, the holes there for the tab on this part, each side is starting to form a little bit of a stress mark on there, like just a little bit. You can see it. Let me see if I could. You could kind of see it. Oh, bump the camera. You can kind of see it right there. So, yeah, and I think on the other side too, it's like that. Just a tad, not as bad as this side. So again, just be careful of those hinges. They are pretty tight. I think this part right here is on a detent, which I've talked about before in the past, like with the Legacy Inferno review, the Beast Wars one. These new detents on some of these plastic joints, it really feels like some of these figures just can't take those sorts of detent joints. I really wish Hasbro would stop using it on stuff like little hinges that really don't need freaking detent joints, but whatever. Now, to me personally, in terms of his accessories, they feel a bit like light on accessories to me. Yeah, he's got the gun, the smokestack guns, and the Matrix, and I guess you could say the missile rack up there, which I'll talk about here soon. But other than that, it would have been nice to get some blast effects. I mean, every other Commander class figure except for this guy in Motormaster have come with blast effects. It seems like maybe, I guess, with the newer Commander class figures, they just don't have enough budget for blast effects. That would really suck. Or maybe it's because of the extra combining engineering, which, I don't know, to me it seems like the combining engineering on Armada Optimus and Menasor, or Motormaster I should say, equals out to what we got on Skylynx and Jetfire, so I still think they should have maybe included at least a couple blast effects. But yeah, he just feels a little light on accessories, mostly blast effects I should say. And oh my god, guys, he comes with a Matrix. It looks beautiful, all that nice detail and paint apps in there. And it's removable. I'm gonna see if I can remove it, but it's a tight lock in on my copy. Let me see here. Come on, untab. There you go. It's a separate piece, it's a separate accessory, but look at these hands. Circle jerk jack-off hands. He's got no opening there like they did with the Laser Optimus. There's no hand joint like they did with, oh, I don't know, Kingdom Rodimus, Earthrise Optimus, other characters to hold the Matrix. Hell, even the new SS-86 Ultra Magnus, he comes with a Matrix and he has hand articulation and he could hold the Matrix he comes with, so why can't Armada Optimus of all characters be able to hold his? There is the argument of, oh, well, he didn't even hold it in the Armada cartoon, which I guess you could say that, but I mean, come on. You include a removable Matrix. If that's the case, why not just leave it as a separate sculpted in detail on the chest? I mean, I don't know, it seems a little useless to me. Now, in terms of this missile rack piece here, it's cool that they included it. It looks nice, it's painted nice, cool sculpted details, yada yada yada. But you can't have them hold it in robot mode, in super mode. It's just, come on camera, focus, Jesus, there we go. It's just an accessory that's pretty much only for the lackluster base mode that I'm sure most people don't even really care about all that much. I mean, it would have been cool if they swapped out some of these 5mm ports for 5mm pegs, like what they did here, which isn't even a 5mm peg for whatever reason when it should have been. Camera, focus! Come on, there you go. So yeah, he can't hold it at all unless if you bring in an adapter, and I don't really collect the weaponizers all that much. I kind of do want to get them, but I don't know, I just never really have. I used a combination of Earthrise Cliffjumper's cannon and Netflix Bumblebee's cannon, and what you can do is, at least for the core robot mode at least, because that's the main bot mode that I really wanted him to use this for whatever reason. Don't ask me why, I'm just particular like that sometimes. But what I found to do, and I just figured this out recently, like a few days ago. How did I do this? Okay, so I plug it in that 5mm port, and then I plug, oh wait, hold up. Do it like, flip this around. Da da da. Lipton iced tea. And bada bing, bada boom, you got yourself a shoulder missile rack for your core robot mode Optimus Prime. Feel free to use this little combination if you want to. No, I am not bot bender, but there you go. You got this little thing going on here, which I think is pretty decent. You know, I wish it could have integrated naturally into this figure, but again, you do have a substitute for that. But yeah, this missile rack kind of sucks. Another thing with the hip skirts too, like when you start articulating the legs and trying to put them in dynamic poses, they bump into the wheels right here. Like, I know the size was sacrificed so they could become the shoulders in super mode. I get that, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe they could have found some way to shorten it just a little bit so it's not always bumping into these wheels, because it does get annoying when you're a dynamic poser and you're trying to do stop motions. It does bump in a lot when you're trying to do stuff, you know? And the tab that holds together this whole piece that splits apart for the super mode transformation, man, this can be annoying sometimes. You can already see there's an opening right here with his crotch area, but it's just so easy for this to split apart, and sometimes when it does, his chest piece pops up a little bit because it tabs in there too, and it's just kind of a loose tab. I mean, that already came apart with me barely putting in any force. Like, look at this. Bruh. I barely put in any force with that, and it just comes apart. So, and also the shoulder hinges, this is a bit more minor, but they don't lock in, so it kind of just flops around, and he starts hitting his head like boop. So that can be, you know, slightly annoying, but that's, again, a little bit more of a nitpick. With the super mode here, one of the things I want to talk about right off the bat, the transformation for the legs and the upper body part is really cool. I do like it. It's fun to do, but in terms of the other upper body part, it's a bit annoying, actually. Like, it's pretty easy. It's kind of fun to do, but these couple parts here just really irk me. Like, when you flip up the super mode head, it's really tight. Like, you really gotta dig in there with your nail. At least for my copy, your tolerance may vary. And then when you lock it in, that's super tight on my copy. And then when you try to pull it back in for transformation, that's kind of hard to do. So that part, I always actually dread doing that part. And this part right here, I absolutely dread entirely. This piece is entirely painted silver. It's a beautiful silver paint, really cool. But, you know, you gotta shove this in to the super... Let me raise the camera here. Shove it into the super mode upper section. And for me personally, it's kind of hard to line things up for whatever reason. Like, I just have a tough time doing it. And I always feel like I'm gonna scratch paint, and I think I already have doing this like like 8 times, a little bit on the side here and whatever. Surprisingly, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. It seems like they used some pretty nice and thick silver paint, at least for this part. Definitely not for the smokestacks, but for this part it seems pretty decent, but still, I just absolutely hate that. I wish this could have just flipped up somewhere and it didn't even have to tab in, because this tab right here and this tab up here is already tight enough. Like, it's really secure, especially this tab right here. And again, with this one, this tab I don't really like too much either. Sometimes the little spring-loaded mechanism gets a little caught on my copy, and when you're trying to unlock it to transform it back into core robot mode or vehicle mode or whatever, it's always kind of tough to do. So yeah, I just don't really like doing that part of the super mode transformation. Okay, finally got the midsection squared off after like 20 minutes of fiddling. So moving on with my complaints with this guy, unfortunately. So the hand design. I really wish they would have went with Siege Jetfire's hand design. You come up close here and you try and close the hand. Hand articulation, very cool. I wish the core robot mode had it, but when you go to close it, this big old 5mm peg just sits there and it looks a little weird. Now let's talk about some more stress marks. Unfortunately, the super mode ears. I've actually seen a few people report on this. So, in terms of the hinges with the super mode ears, again, these are detented, which I don't know why they would do this. It's not like it's some heavy arm or something. It's just ears on a head. So, let me see again. This will be kind of hard to see on camera, but you can see the marks there and there on each side of the hinge joint. And again, these are detented, so just be careful with that. But yeah, this is pretty annoying. And the elephant in the room, I talked about this in my review, and I probably talked about pretty much most of these issues I have with the figure in my review. But again, I just sort of glossed over it because I didn't want to seem like I'm absolutely hating on this figure. But I want to make this video now to just, you know, give a different sort of perspective on, you know, oh, figure of the year, this thing is so well built, plastic quality is amazing, it's like an old school Titan class or an old school leader class. I guess, but I get in some areas, not really. But I still really do love this figure. But anyway, I'm getting a little sidetracked here. Moving on with my complaints. The red eyes obviously not being painted. Elephant in the room, they just went with the typical yellow that the core robot mode has, and I don't like that at all. Yeah, I can fix it, but why should I have to? And I do have a second copy on the way, like I said, and I will be doing the red eye fix at some point soon on either this copy or the other copy I get. I'll decide. But yeah, it does suck to get it coming like this. And is it just me, or is robot mode, or is the cannon and super mode just a tad bit too small for the super mode body? Don't get me wrong, it looks pretty much perfect in terms of size with the core robot mode. But I don't know, in person, it looks a little bit too small when he's just holding it in hand. It actually looks a little bit bigger and better on camera, but in person, it looks a little small to me. I don't know if it's just my eyes or what, but, you know, sort of a little nitpick there. And he has this cool feature where he has these gun pieces on his knees, which is really cool. They flip out, they tab in on pretty much every mold, or pretty much every mode, I should say. And they're used as the hitches for the trailer, which is cool. Or the trailer stand, I should say, not hitches. But, you know, with the cannons, you would expect in this whole new era of generations since Siege with the blast effects and the 5mm ports and pegs, that we would get, you know, either a hole or a peg there for some blast effects to peg on there. And nope, it's just solid plastic, which is okay, I guess, but it would have been nice to plug some blast effects onto here. Another little plastic issue I forgot to mention is, let me see if I can show you guys, but there's like these white marks inside of the plastic, like it's molded in there. I don't know if it's like stress marks or something weird with the chemical, you know, composition of the plastic or something. I don't know, I'm not a plastic expert. In the Autobot logo, it looks beautiful. It's painted with that gold and white trim and then the red, and then it's perfectly sculpted in there like old school Autobot symbols used to be on most figures back in the day when I was younger in the 2000s and stuff. So it's really nice, but the paint seems a little thin on this thing. Like, the gold paint is chipping away on the sides there. The red is chipping away a little bit on the Autobot logo. And I've done nothing to this thing. I haven't even... Well, I took it off once for my stop-motion review a few months back, but that's about it. And even then, the tab for this thing is really tight, so I don't even try anyway. But I don't know why the paint is coming off that easily, or why it's coming off in general if I don't, you know, mess around with the thing. And yes, he kind of does have the SS86 Ironhide hip skirts where they flip up whenever you move the legs in that one piece, and it's not segmented into 3 portions so it matches each leg when it's moving. Nope, it's just one piece. So that sucks a little bit, but they did try and remedy that with this mushroom peg swivel here, where when you move the legs, you could kind of even it to how the legs are moving, so you get that look, which is way better than what they did with Ironhide, but it's still a bit awkward looking, I guess. So I just really wish they would have segmented it into 3 portions like what we get on a lot of hip skirts, or at least some of them. Okay, that's pretty much all my complaints and minor nitpicks and issues being a negative Nancy with this figure. Don't get me wrong, I'll say this again just to clarify things so people aren't down in the comments talking about, oh, why are you trashing on this figure? You're just being picky, you're just being a hater. I'm not trying to be. Again, I was really hyped for this figure. I still really like this figure. It's probably, you know, a figure that I'm going to cherish in my collection, and you know, I even have a second copy on the way. It's just these issues with the thing in terms of the plastic and stress marks and minor issues with the design that just weigh it down for me. And it really makes me question when people say, you know, this guy, talking about this guy as like figure of the year or like the greatest figure Hasbro has ever made. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of cool aspects about this guy that make you think that, in terms of, you know, there's no hollowness on him, all the wheels are pinned in, there's a lot of nice paint on him, even though some of it's inaccurate or even missing. But just all these issues that I listed in the video weigh it down for me. But again, I still really do like this figure, and he's still probably going to go down as one of my favorites in my collection, and I don't know, maybe he'll be one of the greatest Generations figures Hasbro has made. But again, I'm just a little iffy on that right now, given the problems I have with this mold. But again, I don't know, maybe my mind will change, and I'll look past these issues one day, and I'll just be like, oh, this really is one of the greatest figures Hasbro's ever made for Transformers. Yeah. But right now, I don't know, these issues weigh it down for me a little bit. But again, I still really do love this figure and think it came out pretty nice. But yeah, I just figured I'd drop this video, giving my thoughts, a little bit of a different perspective on this figure than what you usually hear. I just pretty much wanted to roll up all the issues I have personally, and a lot of issues probably a lot of people out there have with this figure that I've seen reported online. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on all these issues, and do you have any of these problems, and do you think this is figure of the year or one of the greatest Transformers figures Hasbro has made of all time? And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Bye!